What's going on, everybody? It's Matt with That Jeep Adventure, and we are continuing to make progress on the CJ5 restoration. Today we have the AMC 20 here in the shop. We are going to get it torn down because it's going to be getting sanded, a fresh coat of paint. We're going to open it up, look at the gears, make sure everything inside looks good. It's going to get new wheel bearings, gear oil, and all that. So first things first, and that's just getting it torn down. Now we're going to get the diff cover off and drain the gear oil out of the housing. We don't want it coming out the axle tubes and stuff while we're moving the axle around, painting it and sanding it. So we're going to drain that, and then also we're going to inspect the gears. So hopefully everything looks good in there. Alright, not too terribly dirty, but definitely a little muddy. Now we get to look at the gears. The ring gear looks good. The pinion gear down in there looks good. Spiders look good too. Alright, well, that's never fun, but we got it finished. The axle is grinded down. It looks awesome. I still got to hit some spots with the wire wheel where I can't get the flap disc in there, but now I'm going to take the brakes off and the backing so I can get the end of the axle tube. So hopefully the drum part comes off pretty easy. Sometimes they can be like stuck on there, so let's hope that's not the case. Next up is to get the axle shafts out so we can get the brake backings off. Alright, first thing we got to do is get this pin out. There it is. PB Blaster. Alright, now that the crown bolts are off, we are going to take the backing plate bolts off and slide the axle shaft out. Alright, now that the backing plates are unbolted, we should be able to slide the shafts out of the housing. Alright, well, thank the Lord that is done. The AMC 20 is completely stripped down and ready for primer and paint. That was terrible. After the first one, I mean, I was kind of tired of doing it, but after doing the second one, I am very tired of sanding on an axle. It's just like super awkward. I mean, I know I got a lot more sanding left. Ahead of me, the cross member, I mean, the body, all kinds of stuff is going to have to be sanded, but the axle is just super awkward, and I'm bending over and breaking my back doing it. I don't know why I don't just do it on the table, trying to keep my shop clean and free of all the little metal shards that are thrown out of the wire wheel. But anyway, it's done. So now for primer and paint. Alright, so this bearing and shaft and brake backing and the outer part of the shaft here all came off as one piece. I wasn't real sure how to pry this bearing off on this end because that's got to come off to get the brake backing off. So I called my buddy George and he said I just need to cut the cage that holds the rollers in and then it'll allow me to pull the race off and then it should slide out. So I'm going to get that done now, but I'm going to be heading over to George's tomorrow because he said he has developed, I don't know if it's like an adapter or a different brake backing, but he's developed a product that allows the backing to stay on and allows you to pull the shaft without taking it off as like one piece. So I'm going to go pick that up from him tomorrow, and I'm sure that'll be a nice upgrade for doing maintenance on this rear end. So this is the cage that we're going to be cutting. This will allow the rollers to come out, which will allow the race to come off, and then we'll be able to get the shaft out and deal with getting the inner part of the bearing pressed off. Now our backing should slide off. Alright, now that we got the brake backing off, we can take these drum brakes apart. The wheel cylinder looks pretty good, so I mean it's not leaking. It's not like dry rot or anything, so I might retain that. But anyway, I'm about to take all this apart. You want to remember to wear glasses because these springs will shoot off and hit you in the eye and put your eye out, kid. So wear glasses just as a safety precaution. Next, we have to get the wheel cylinder off. It just comes off with these two bolts right here. Just like that, we have our brake backing off. Now we can take these to George and get the new modified ones. So I'm about to head to George's and pick up the new backing plates. He told me to bring the axles with me, and he's going to help me get the inside part of this bearing pressed off and get the new ones pressed on. So I'm going to get loaded up and we're going to head over to Osaka. Alright, so this is why we have come over to George's shop. He's done this a bunch of times. He has it all figured out. He's got like random pieces that just kind of fit everywhere to make this easy. So now we're just going to press off the hub and then get the bearing off this way. How hard? Just wheel it. Alright, well, here's an update. I was going to leave the seal in there because I couldn't get it out. Called George and he said just to hammer it in 2 spots, and as soon as it breaks away from the wall, I grabbed it with the pick and it pulled right out. So that's a nice little trick to know right there. So Now I get to see why they piled all this silicone in here and then replace the new seal. All right, well, we can see why they had all the silicone in there. Look at that big groove. It's like a big pit right here. So either whenever they were changing the seal before, somebody gouged it out, or it had water in there, maybe rusted. I don't know. It kind of looks like it was gouged out by something. But anyway, the solution to that is going to be some black silicone. Permatex Ultra Black is what I'm going to use. So we're just going to kind of coat the inside of the tube and then put the seal in and let the Permatex kind of fill that void. Alright, so the next thing we have to do is pack our bearing and get it pressed onto the shaft. Alright, I don't have a bearing packer, so I'm going to show you how we do it without. You can see right through here where the grease is getting down in there. We got our bearings packed, now let's get them pressed onto the shaft. Alright, so we're going to hit all this with a light layer of grease, just so everything kind of slides when we're sliding the axle shaft back in. Alright, that's her. Next up is put the race on. Now that we got the shaft in, we didn't need shims, so we go now to the backing plate with the adapter and our dust shield over it with the new hardware. So that's the next step. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is push your new bolts through the back. Alright, so the next step is the backing. You want to make sure that you've got the right one on the right side. This one has the hole. You want it to be facing forward, so for the e-brake cable to come in from the front of the axle. If this is on the other side, the e-brake cable is going to be facing towards the back. So this is the right way for this. And then our adapter. And our dust shield. Alright, then we put our wheel cylinder on next. Okay, once our wheel cylinder is on, you're going to go ahead and stick the e-brake cable through the brake backing. Next, we want to put our pins into the wheel cylinder. Alright, after that, we're going to use these little nails that hold the brake shoes on. We're going to slide those through the brake backing. Next, we're going to install our brake shoes. So we've already swapped over the e-brake bracket to the new shoe. So we're going to go ahead and get that one installed. To do that, you just slide the nail through the hole in the shoe, and then put the retainer spring on it. Make sure you get it lined up into the wheel cylinder up top. All right, we'll go ahead and hook up the e-brake. All right, we'll put the shoe on the other side. Then we'll put our adjuster bracket down here where it goes. Go ahead and put our little retainer up here. We have the little strut that goes from one side to the other. Spring goes on one side. This only goes in here one way. Next we're going to do our springs. So we've got to put our self-adjuster cable guide up here and feed the spring in. And then we're going to go ahead and put our adjuster cable connected up here. It runs around the guide and connects to that bracket. Alright, now we're going to do the other side. Make sure everything is lined up in here. Looks like it. Now we're going to put our bottom spring on, and it connects to this lever also. Alright, now that everything's in place, we can fit our self-adjuster in there. And make sure you put the dial under this lever, because spinning that is what adjusts the brakes. Alright, and that's our brake setup. So all that's left is to slide our hub back on. Alright, that's it. So now the drum goes on. Once the axle is back under the Jeep, this will get tightened to like 250 foot-pounds. So we're just gonna leave this kind of hand tight for now, and then get it attached to the frame and get this tightened up later. So that finishes up our AMC 20 rebuild. It's another big checklist off of the CJ5 project. So I'm pretty excited to have that done. Next, I'm gonna get the frame and the axles and the springs that are all nicely painted. I'm gonna get all that put back together so we can get the frame rolling around here in the shop. And then I guess after that, I'm gonna dig into the T150 because it needs to be rebuilt. So I'm gonna try my hand at that as well. I know it's got some bad synchros and it had some pitting on some of the gears. So we're gonna be replacing some stuff in there. Thanks for tuning in and following along with my big project. Follow the page on Instagram at That Jeep Adventure and subscribe to the channel.